Greetings from eMedi News, Heartcare Foundation of India and Board of Medical Education, Mulchand MedCity. Welcome to the show, Chat with Dr. KK. We have with us Dr. Nidhi Agarwal. She is a clinical instructor, hematopathology in UPMC, that is University of Pittsburgh Medical Center in US. Welcome to our show. Very simple question. When we talk about hematopathologists, first of all, just briefly tell us the divisions of pathology.
So pathology, every division that you can see in medicine, you have that corresponding division in pathology. So some places are more specialized than the others. So in pathology, you will have a renal pathology, a neuropathology, hematopathology. You will have a clinical pathology. Clinical pathology is more like, you know, the regular lab work that you mostly deal with. So all the wet lab things like hemogram, urine testing, chemistry, all that comes in clinical pathology.
And what about hematopathology?
All this is surgical pathology. So any biopsy that you do, including a bone marrow biopsy, a skin biopsy, brain biopsy, liver biopsy, kidney biopsy, all this is surgical pathology. So that needs, you know, making slides and then looking at them after staining them. Whereas more like hemogram and blood chemistries, LFTs, KFTs, these come more in, like, you know, there is an instrument which you have to, you have to set it so that it gives you the right result. But that is more like clinical pathology, wherein you just, you know, you feed the blood or, you know, whatever the specimen is inside the instrument, and then you get an answer.
Okay. What about, again, hematopathology? Let's concentrate on that.
So
that's your subject.
Yeah.
That will cover what?
Hematopathology will cover everything that is related to, almost everything that is related to blood. So it will include the hemogram, it will include the peripheral blood smear, it will include bone marrow biopsies, it will include any lymph node biopsy, mostly for lymphomas, but also for non-lymphoma diagnosis. It will include spleens, it will include thymus, it will include any reticular endothelial system basically that you can think of.
Okay, let me come back to two, let me focus on two things. One will be on platelet count on hemogram, and second will be on how to look for a peripheral smear. And why I am picking up a platelet count and hemogram is that a time will come for 3 or 4 months in a year, and we will have rampant dengue and chikungunya, and with dengue we have low platelet counts. And the basic thing which comes in our mind is how reliable are the machines, how reliable are platelet count done by a analyzer, hematology analyzer.
So platelet count, usually in a normal, if a person is like, you know, let's say with a normal, otherwise normal, just dengue infection, then it is pretty reliable. The problem comes when the platelet count is too low or too high. That's when it goes out of range. The other reason why it might be totally off might be because something is interfering in the platelet counting. So what can interfere? If the platelets are too large, if the patient has some abnormality because of which we haven't picked up yet, but the platelets are too large, they will not be counted as platelets, but they will be counted as red cells. So because of that, your platelet count will go low and you will not detect that. You will just look at the hemogram and say, oh, platelet count is low, but it is really not low. Or if the red cells are too small. So if your patient has thalassemia, for example, or an iron deficiency anemia, or some other reason for which he has microcytosis, those red cells can be counted as platelets. So what will happen is that platelet count may be low, but it will be counted as high. So these are few reasons why the platelet count can be off. So what happens?
Let's say there is no microcytic anemia, and then all these pathologies are not there. Now, if a patient comes to me who is otherwise normal, that means in a normal sense, platelet count will be fairly reliable.
Yes, platelet count is fairly reliable. One thing that we usually do, and one should always do, is always check it with the you know, a peripheral blood smear,
Most of them will not do it. I'm coming to a situation, it is ideal, but when it comes to a season of a dengue season, you have a lab coming out with 100 cases, 100 samples, and 100 samples in a day, that means they are totally busy with doing peripheral smears, and with the JCI and NABH coming, this says that smears will not be reported by technicians. So ultimately, a pathologist has to spend only 8 hours, and he has to do other jobs. So invariably, they just write machine reading. They give you the report as write machine reading. Now the concept has come is platelet count machine reading. They don't want to interpret. They don't want to recheck unless you send them for a recheck. For that, they will charge extra. Now they say machine reading. So let me concentrate on machine reading.
Yeah.
So how unreliable can be a machine reading apart from this situation? When you say platelet count low, and that's what situation we are dealing with. Most of us we have. So all of us have started now taken out an Indian equation. Indian equation is whatever your platelet count, add 30,000, and that will be your correct reading. That means machine will always give you a lower rate. If the platelet count is 5,000, it actually is not 5,000, because 5,000 means panic. Actually, it is not 5,000.
I would say that you should repeat the platelet count. I mean,
the same machine?
I mean, yes.
If you use the same machine, same report will come.
May not. So, like sometimes what happens is that the platelet count is altered because of the, like, you know, the kind of specimen that you have sent.
That means change the specimen.
Yeah.
Change the specimen. If you do repeat it with the same
not
lab,
the same specimen.
So change the specimen.
Yeah, change the specimen. Just repeat it. You know, if it is if it is not a panic number, then definitely repeat it like the next day. If it is a panic number, then repeat it.
So why I am saying is that most of us we come across patients asymptomatic. He has dengue, proven dengue. Otherwise asymptomatic, no symptoms at all, and platelet count 10,000, 5,000, 3,000, and you create a panic. You create a panic, and actually the platelet count is 33,000. And we have seen here, we have seen in any setting that 6 hours later the report comes, oh no, it was not 3,000, machine reading was 3,000, actually it is 33,000.
Exactly, that is
but by the time he has already received a platelet transfusion.
Yeah, so the indication for platelet transfusion is also like, of course if it is 3,000, then you would, by default give a platelet. But like above 5 to 10,000, you should not give platelets for without a reason.
No,
if the patient is not bleeding,
again I come back. That means a platelet count of less than a number, you have to tell me that number, that if it comes to the machine reading, I should say, don't panic, let me repeat it. Is there a number?
The number, if you have a platelet count of less than 10,000, I would say send a peripheral smear.
Smear.
That would be better.
Okay.
If you cannot do a peripheral smear, definitely repeat it before giving the patient platelets. And
there is no role of manual platelet count, used to be done before.
That is what we look at on the peripheral smear.
In a peripheral smear, how do you say that platelet count is less than 10? Because we were taught that you can only detect it is less than 1 lakh or more than 1 lakh.
Yes, so that is what I was saying. Like, what we see on the peripheral smear is a manual kind of and it is definitely not comparable to what you get out of machine. But as I said, machine can be totally off. Okay. Machine can tell you 5,000 versus it could be 30,000, and that difference you can make visually.
How?
Whether it is 5,000.
So if I see on a peripheral smear.
Yeah, so we have like a guideline, like in the sense, like, if you go to 100x power, you see these many platelets in the field, and then you multiply it by 10,000 or 20,000 depending on your
So normally we say that if you see them in clumps,
if you see them in clumps, then the count, the count is not your problem. If you have clumps of platelets, then platelet count is not the problem of the patient.
So clumps of a platelet rules out
it's not a problem
serious, anything serious. Now if I see a single platelet in a 100x high power field, or 2 platelets or 3 platelets, there are equations available.
Yeah. So I mean, like, if you see on a 100x power, if you see like 4 or 5 platelets, it is good enough for hemostasis. The body does not need a lot of platelets to give you hemostasis. So it's good enough. But if you've gone through multiple fields and you haven't seen a platelet, you haven't seen any clumps because sometimes what happens is that on the peripheral smear, you will have platelet clumps at the edge and then nothing in between. So you want to look at that edge and make sure.
If I want to do a good peripheral smear minus ESR, can I get all the information regarding hemogram indirectly? That means hemoglobin, TLC, platelet count.
You can get. You will get less information about the red cells because you cannot judge, or at least our resolution of our eyes is not good enough to say, okay, this is a red cell. you know, this must be the hemoglobin. What I can tell you is, it looks like the hemoglobin is less in the red cells, or you know, and plus I can't tell you if it is more, like for polycythemia.
What about TLC count?
TLC count, you can get a fair information, but like as I said, it is not good enough for machine. What we do on a visual check is check the machine. Is the machine okay, or is the machine totally off? Because we get a lot
of reports. It says height, it says TLC is 7,000, 9,000, 8,000, shift to left. I can expect shift to left when the count is 15,000, 16,000, 17,000. But with the count of 6,000, if the report comes shift to left, do I consider this as an infection, or it can be just a...
Well, I mean, like, so it's an interesting question, because normally patients or people, normal people can have some shift to left. Now, it depends on how much that shift is. If you're seeing a lot of you know, myelocytes, and you know, then yes, you should consider infection, and you know, leukemoid reaction is what we call. But usually with that, as you said, the TLC is usually high. But even with a normal TLC, you could have some shift to left. But if you're seeing a lot of shift to left, then you should consider something else. Like, you know, if you're seeing a lot of blasts, then of course it's no longer, yeah, it's no longer infection then. But like, you know, if you see one myelocyte, two myelocyte, it might still be in the normal realm for that patient.
So we should ignore that. We
should
not get panic if the report
if the patient doesn't have anything else.
I personally feel is that I do a lot of echoes, and when I report MR, I must report in bracket insignificant or significant, because with MR, with echo, we pick up lots of MR which actually are not MR, but because of the machine we pick up. So similarly, shouldn't it be that all pathologists should write on shift to left, bracket by normal? And or they should say investigate further. Otherwise, what will happen is whenever we say shift to left, it's an alarm to us.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that you should say insignificant, because peripheral blood is as non-specific as maybe just you know, looking at a pulse of the patient. So it may mean a lot, it may mean nothing. So peripheral blood is a reflection of your bone marrow to a lot of extent. And this shift to left is not just infection. It could be anything that is disrupting your bone marrow for whatever reason. It can be replacing the bone. The patient could have a cancer that is replacing the bone marrow. It is metastatic, and that's why there is a shift to left. It could be like, you know, somebody pointed out previously, myelodysplasia. That could be the shift to left. It could be simple infection. It could be leukemias. It could be it could be anything in the bone marrow. So by saying in the pathology report insignificant, you would be you know, like the patient might actually have something, and you might be telling the clinician ignore it, which would not be correct. So if I write in the report it is shift to left, I leave it up to the clinician to see what else does the patient have. If the patient doesn't have anything else, if the patient is totally normal, I would ignore it. But if the patient has anything else that makes you want to investigate further, do a bone marrow biopsy, do it. But not if the patient is like totally normal, if they're reporting out one myelocyte, I would ignore it.
So my last thing is that, tell me, am I wrong or correct? A good peripheral smear examination and a good urine examination are the backbone for any family practice.
Absolutely. Like peripheral smear can tell you so much about the patient, bone marrow, as well as just the normal function, like, you know, and we do hemograms and peripheral smears all the time. So a good peripheral smear is the key to the diagnosis of a lot of bone marrow and heme related diagnosis. That's correct.
So what Nidhi tells us is what our undergraduate teaching was, that if you want to open a clinical side lab, only do two things: do a good peripheral smear, learn, have a microscope, learn a good peripheral smear, and do good urine examination. It has been said that a good urine examination is as good as a kidney biopsy, and a good peripheral smear examination is as good as a bone marrow examination. Let's thank Nidhi to be here with us. That's all for today. We'll come back with one more show. Till that, goodbye. Thank you.